To Learn. Paul is a sponsor every year, and we're very glad for him to continue it again this year. And as Paul mentioned, he's sponsoring in memory of his grandmother. So all the Torah that we're learning, as I mentioned yesterday in my class, the only way to really elevate the neshama, the soul, once it departs our body, right, is by us here, humans, doing mitzvot or charity in commemoration of their soul. Because once the soul departs the body, the soul can't gain or grow any more than it did in this world. But we, the children, the grandchildren, the friends, and the family of that individual have the ability to elevate the soul through the Torah that we learn, through the sponsorships that we do. So, Paul, thank you so much, and may her neshama, her soul, be elevated and blessed through all the learning that we're doing today. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, a big thank you to the JCA for partnering with us during this COVID era. In the past, we've always done a lunch and learn or two in the JCA, but now because of COVID, they're stuck with me. I don't know what they're doing about it, but we're very excited to be able to host this use this big room that we could all spread out and join together. So a big thank you to that. Today's lunch to learn, we're talking about Tu B'Shvat, right? So we all are familiar. Tu B'Shvat is actually one of the most famous holidays in the Jewish calendar, probably third to Hanukkah and to Pesach, right? I'm not sure which one, Passover or Hanukkah, which one's more, right? But Tu B'Shvat is one of the most famous holidays. Of course, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? But Tu B'Shvat is something that almost all Jews on all walks of life do something. They either plant a tree, or they send money to the land of Israel to plant a tree. They do a Seder, which Rachel provided with Stab one here beforehand. And they do something. You do something about Tu B'Shvat. But let me tell you a little secret. Tu B'Shvat is a custom, right? It's a custom. It's a tradition that's brought down in the Code of Jewish Law. There's actually no mention of a holiday or any kind of ritual in the Talmud about Tu B'Shvat. There's no mention of a holiday or a ritual that we do for Tu B'Shvat in the Talmud. The Talmud tells us, which we'll quote soon, right, the Talmud tells us that on the 15th of the Tu B'Shvat, the 15th of Shvat, right, is Rosh Hashanah Ilanot. It is the head of the year for the trees. And that's what it says. The Talmud is a part of a Mishnah that says there's 4 Rosh Hashanahs, there's 4 heads of the year. The famous one that we're familiar with is Rosh Hashanah, right, which is the beginning of our new year. And let me put that on vibrator. Right? Rosh Hashanah, the head of our new year. There's other Rosh Hashanahs, and one of those, it says, Tu B'Shvat is the head of the year for the trees. What does that mean? Talmud doesn't really discuss so much. And it moves on. The concept is a little background to the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. When Tu B'Shvat really became sort of a holiday and has really been practiced with a Seder or things like that, is really in the 15th century, 16th century, which was started by the Arizal, the great Kabbalist, right, the Arizal, who's buried in Tzfat, right, who was the master of Kabbalah, who really brought Kabbalah back into this world, right? It was lost for a couple of years. It was only individuals, and he wrote, and he had students who wrote books, and he's the first one that really brought it as a holiday. He started the concept of the Seder, the Tu B'Shvat Seder, and other things like that. And then it was brought down in the Code of Jewish Law, which was Rav Yosef Cairo. Rav Yosef Cairo, even though he was much older than the Arizal by at least 40 years, he considered himself a student of the Arizal, and he brought it into the Code of Jewish Law, and he says that there's certain rules regarding Tu B'Shvat that is considered like a holiday. So it's more of a custom that became part of the Jewish culture, right, through the Kabbalistic great rabbis, brought into the Code of Jewish Law, but it's sort of just something to be aware of, right? Doing Passover, Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot is a biblical holiday. Just to sort of put it in perspective, not God forbid to take it away. We're going to have a whole class now to truly understand what we're supposed to learn from this holiday, but it's important to sort of put things in perspective. So what is this holiday? This holiday is Happy Birthday Trees. Happy birthday to the trees. That doesn't really ring so well. Right? But the commentaries ask, and it's the first two sources, and the commentaries ask, one second, first and foremost, and it's a bad time to have a birthday. Right? Okay, here in Jacksonville, you know, it's usually, we don't really have snow, but as I mentioned in my morning minute this morning, it hit the 40s. We have like a little winter, yay, right? But this is the time that we're celebrating the trees. You go up north, anybody that's been up north, you know, all the trees are desolate except for the evergreens, right? But otherwise, all the trees are desolate. Over here, we still have some leaves on some trees, but up north or other cold climates, it's gone. So this is the time that we're celebrating the birthday of the trees. Wait for spring. Wait for it to start budding. Beautiful little colors. That's when you should celebrate the birthday. And we've asked this question before. We're going to take a different direction this year. But that's question number one. Question number two, which we haven't asked in the past, right? It's a new question. Question number two is, why don't we find that you say, happy birthday, horse? Happy birthday, wheat. It sounds ridiculous, right? But we say, Yom Huledet La'ilanot, right? Happy birthday tree. And we even have a song for it, right? Kagailanot, and I'm not going to sing, I'm not going to ruin any of your ears, right? But there's a whole song, right? Stav, I'm sure you know it, right? Everybody in Israel sings a song, right? Kagailanot, right? But we don't have anything about happy birthday of flower, wheat, happy birthday mountains, happy birthday. We don't have any of that. So why do we consider it happy birthday Lilanot? What is significant about the tree? Why does the Talmud really dates back to the Talmud? Why does the Talmud say that there's a Rosh Hashanah for the trees? The Talmud doesn't say there's a Rosh Hashanah for the mountains. The Talmud doesn't say there's a Rosh Hashanah for the flowers. Or for different vegetables, for potatoes. Okay, they probably didn't know about potatoes because potatoes they found when they came to America, right? But how about cucumbers and tomatoes? So why do we have only happy birthday trees? And why does the Talmud say that there's a Rosh Hashanah for the trees? What's significant about the trees? So there's 2 points to this, 2 questions. Number one, why during this period of time? Number two is why it's significant about the tree. What's unique about a tree? So we're going to start off answering with a very famous passage in the Talmud, and I just quoted the Pirkei Rebbe Elazar. Pirkei Rebbe Elazar is like a midrash, sort of, right? Who sort of gives a little more behind the verse. It says, man is like unto a tree, as the verse says, for man is a tree of the field. It says, Adam eitz hasadeh, a man is like a tree in the field. It's a verse in the Torah, right? Man is like a tree, and it's talking about the rules of when they go out to war regarding cutting down a fruit tree. It's specifically talking about a fruit tree, that you're not allowed to cut down a fruit tree to even make a wall, a defensive wall, unless you're really dire and there's no other options and your life's on the line. But otherwise, it says do not use a fruit tree, because Adam eitz hasadeh, man is like a tree of the field. That's what it says. So we learn from there that there has to be some kind of connection to a man, to humans, to a tree. There's a metaphor, there's something to learn from, right? That a man is compared to a tree, and it really gives us a little more depth into Tu B'Shvat. When we're celebrating the tree, doesn't mean that we're actually celebrating the tree, right? What we're celebrating is the lessons that we're supposed to learn from Tu B'Shvat, from the tree, for us. Because I'm going to tell you a very important rule in life in general, nothing to do with Tu B'Shvat, it's connected to Tu B'Shvat. But everything that happens to us, all the different customs that we have, or the different rules and the laws and the mitzvot and everything that we have, is for us to learn from. Maimonides wrote a whole book called Tamei HaMitzvos, the reasons behind the mitzvot. Now, what does the word ta'am mean in Hebrew? Taste. Right? Ta'amei HaMitzvot, the taste of the mitzvot. Why did Maimonides call it Ta'amei HaMitzvot, the taste of the mitzvot? And the commentaries explain because a taste is, you can have food that's bland, right? Okay, you get your sustenance and you eat, but you don't feel any excitement out of the food, and you don't feel anything great about the food. But ta'amei, the tam, the taste, gives you excitement behind the food. Ta'amei, the taste, gives you an excitement to want to eat this food again. It either tastes bad, right? Or it tastes good, oh, give me more, I want more, right? And as you're all aware, for those that are new, welcome, you'll know that I like ice cream because it tastes good for me, right? Ben's shaking his head, right? Right? I like ice cream, right? I like the taste of ice cream to the extent that my wife has to hide the ice cream she buys when she buys it and brings it home. And I shouldn't, not that far, but I started to steal popsicle or this, that, I like it. It's something that is my Achilles heel to a certain degree because of the taste. So I want more. So my Maimonides called it ta'ameh mitzvot, the taste of the mitzvos, is that when he says, I want you to understand the depth of the mitzvah, I want you to understand why God said not to do a certain thing or why to do a certain thing, not because it should just be intellectually, oh, okay, I'm a robot, right? But you should get a taste of it. You should want to do it more. When you understand it, it gives you a deeper connection and you'll want to do it more, just like someone wants to eat something more that he tastes. And therefore, he called it ta'ameh mitzvot, the reasons, the taste of the mitzvot, which happens to be the reason. And that's a rule in life in general. Now, when we have things that, like the command, like saying Rosh Hashanah li lanot, which we're going to talk about today, comparing man to a tree, it is telling us a lesson and things that we're supposed to learn from that to make us into better people, to make us grow and to be the best that we can be. And that's what it means that there's a connection and there's a lesson that we're supposed to learn, because the Torah we see connects a man to a fruit tree. And specifically a fruit tree. We see the Torah compares it. Yeah, there's a halachic ramifications, as I mentioned. There are halachic laws that you're not allowed to cut a fruit tree. I remember growing up in Toronto. I'm from Toronto. It's not my fault I'm from Canada, but go Maple Leafs. But I'm from Toronto. I remember growing up, we had a fruit tree that was very close to the house. Now in Toronto, we have a lot of raccoons. We have a lot of raccoons in Toronto. You know what raccoons and a roof have in common? Nothing. The raccoon eats it all up, right? Literally, the raccoons were climbing onto our roof. They're starting to damage. So we didn't know what to do because you're not allowed to cut a fruit tree. It was a fruit tree. So my father went to his rabbi, Rav David Palm, right? He used to live and be well, right? And he asked him, so what should we do? So he explained to him the whole situation. He said, we tried to move, we tried to put some things, couldn't work. He said, okay, now you're in a scenario where you're allowed to cut it because it's damaging you. But he said, sell it to a non-Jew, right? Because they don't have that obligation. It's an obligation for a Jew. Sell it to a non-Jew that it's not yours, and then get someone to cut it down. Get someone to come and cut it down. And that's what we did. But we see to the extent you're not allowed to cut this. So there is halakhic ramification, but we're going to try to understand the deeper meaning, right? The insights behind what is the meaning that a man is compared to a tree. And please, at any point in time, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. We love questions. Questions are the key to wisdom. So I want to take a different direction this year, and some things that we've never said beforehand, right? Which is awesome, right? Sometimes we sort of intertwine certain things, but this is something very beautiful and something very important to learn. So I'm going to go a little Kabbalistic. Listen, the whole holidays, as I mentioned, introduction is really a Kabbalistic holiday. And so we're going to go a little Kabbalistic. The word Shvat, right? The 15th of Shvat, which is this month, right? The 5th month of the year, right? The word, right, really comes from staff or rod. Shvat comes from Shvat, which is really the root is a staff or a rod, like a stick or something like that, right? And it could symbolize the power, is used as a symbol of power, right? Or as a cane to lean on, right? So when you talk about a staff, right, it could be, right, the staff, Moshe's staff, right? We're just talking about this week's Torah, last week's Torah portion. Moshe used his staff to what? To split the sea. God told Moshe to put the staff over the water, and the water split. Moshe used his staff in different places. It's a sign of power. All right, kings have a staff, but also a staff could be used to lean on. Right? Also, people that need a cane. Right? And so it serves as a master. That's also to serve its master. This is the underlining theme of this month. So to understand Tu B'Shvat, we have to understand the month a little bit also. The underlying theme of this month, and we're going to see some other cool things about this month, and then we're going to wrap it all together. The name of the month is significant. Again, everything in Judaism, there's a rhyme and reason. It's not just because. And I did a little thing this morning. I checked up my name and my birthday, right? Because I was getting all Kabbalistic. We'll see with the times and the zodiacs, right? And there's deep meaning. It actually says I'm very sensitive. So I'm a very sensitive person. But there's a rhyme and reason in Judaism. There's no coincidence. There's no, oh, just because, that's just what the word means. Everything has a reason. So the month that it means a staff, but it has this dual purpose. We're going to connect to it in a minute. We're just going to show a couple more things. We're going to wrap it together. There's a significance to this month, and therefore the significance also for the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. Number two, I want to talk about, and then we'll wrap it together. The constellation, the mazal, right? The mazal, right? For Shvat. So every month has a constellation. For the mazal, which in Hebrew is called mazal, we say mazal tov, right? When someone has mazel tov, right? We should say you should have a good mazal, which is the constellations, right? So we say it should be within a good mazal, right? So mazal means the constellations. Associated with Shvat is the water bucket, the Hebrew one. In the English, I just looked it up, it's the person that's pouring the water, right? But in the Jewish mazal, the Jewish constellation, it's the water bucket. What's the symbolism of a water bucket? Also represents the object that serves someone else. The water bucket in itself is nothing, right? Well, what's the water bucket? Well, the water bucket, right, especially in the days of old, now you could say it's our pipes, right? But the water bucket primarily brought water from one place to another, allowed you to carry the water. You can't put water in your hands, right? You could put logs in your hand, you could put fruits in your hand, but water you can't put in your hands. So the water bucket, right, symbolizes an object that serves someone else. It draws water, right? In the secular, as I said, it's the person that's bringing it out, right? But let's not get too off topic on that. The symbolism of water bucket is very important. A bucket has but one function, designed and purpose to draw and carry water. This is to be a vessel, transmit, to transform, to move one thing from another place. Its whole essence is one of serving, and as we mentioned. Okay, now one last thing, we'll tie all this together. The element of Shvat, this element, there's 4 elements, right? There's water, there's earth, there's fire, and there's water, right? 4 different elements. The element of Shvat means this time period, because it's split into 3 months. There's 4 elements, so every 3 months have a certain element. And the element of Shvat that Shvat is in is wind. Is wind. Wind is very interesting. Right? Wind, out of all 4 elements, right? Wind is the least tangible. You can't touch wind. Right? It was very windy yesterday. For some of you, even this morning, I put for here in Mandarin, recycling is today. Right? I put my recycling out. I put it out last night. I come back this morning and the cover's off and some of the stuff are all over the place. Right? I have to go and put it back in. It was very windy this morning, but it's not tangible. You can't really touch it. Right? Wind is not tangible. It offers, and often it acts as it moves things from one place to another. Right? It conducts for other. It's a conduct for other things. So if you have fire, and then you have wind, the wind makes the fire spread. Right? People that fight forest fires, they know if you have a heavy wind, it's much worse. Right? It's the same thing with objects or soil or dust. Right? You throw the things up in the air, and the wind scatters it all over the field. That's one of the malachot, one of the 39 Avis malachos on Shabbat. The translation is called us throwing things up and allowing the wind to separate the things. So the wind is there for again the same kind of concept to others. It transports, right? It brings seeds to other places, to other locations. Where earth and water are things for themselves, right? Earth, you plant in the earth, and it's a substance with itself. Fire, it warms you up, it cooks you, it burns you, God forbid, right? Water, it sustains you, God forbid you could drown in it, right? But every of the other elements is a thing within itself. Wind, right? Wind is, again, brings other things together. So what do we see from all these 3 points? And there's others, but I wasn't gonna get too far with this. Is all these points suggest that the month of Shvat is prone to be a conductor for others, a stepping stone to the next step in our lives, right? So being the water bucket, right? Bringing something from one place to another place. Shvat, a staff, right? It itself has a dual purpose. It could show strength, but also it could help someone else out, right? It could help someone walk. And the wind, as we said, brings something from one place to another, right? Either good, the seeds, right? Or fire, God forbid, which is bad, right? So we see that this month of Shvat is a month that is a concept of conducting, of changing, of moving things from one place to another, right? Let me say it like this. The month of Shvat is a month that allows potential to get to the place that it has to be. The water, somebody needs to drink it. It allows the water to be used the way it's supposed to be used, be moved over, right? That's what the month of Shvat is. The month of Shvat is transfer. It changes things. It moves things from one place to another. Yes, go ahead. Kavod.
Why Tu B'Shvat? Why the 15th Shvat is just Aleph Shvat, like Hashanah?
Okay, very good. So Stav is telling us that there's actually, I didn't mention the whole Mishnah in the Talmud. There's two opinions in the Talmud. Is it Aleph, the head, the first day of Shvat, which was called Rosh Chodesh Shvat, is that should be the Rosh Hashanah Lilanos, like what we call now Tu B'Shvat. That should be the day that is when the birthday of the trees, for all intents and purposes, right? Or Beis Hillel holds that it's the 15th of Shvat. So the reason is because there's a rule that we follow the laws of Beis Hillel, right? That's typically when there's a machlokus, there's an argument between the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. We follow the rules of Beis Hillel, and I'm gonna give you a deeper connection in a minute. But yeah.
So the second question is that we said we have 4 New Years in the Hebrew calendar. We have Tu B'Shvat and we have Rosh Hashanah. But the two others we don't really talk about. Oh, I only read about it yesterday or a week ago. I wanted to ask why do we only have talked about these two and not really talk about that?
Excellent question. And the real question is, as I mentioned, not until the 15th century, the 16th century, sorry, right, the 1500s, not until then was Tu B'Shvat not really talked about either, right? It was really only one Rosh Hashanah, the Rosh Hashanah of Rosh Hashanah. And the reason is because as I'm giving you the deeper meanings behind it, and everything has a deeper meaning, but really the other three Rosh Hashanahs, the other 3 heads of years, one is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, right? And at the top of my head, I don't remember what the other one is, right? But the Talmud says it for agricultural laws primarily, right? For example, the head of the year for a tree, right? There's a rule, right, that for the first 3 years a tree is around, right? You're not allowed to have the products of the fruit. You're not allowed to eat the produce of a tree, and it's okay, right? The produce of a tree for the first 3 years. The 4th year you're supposed to bring it into the temple, and so when it's considered year 1 for the tree, right? So when you plant it, the Talmud says no, it's from Tu B'Shvat, right? So that's what it means, the head of the year. So there's a halachic ramification of what it means, the head of the year, and the same thing for the other ones, right? Same thing for the other ones. There's halakhic thing, and I don't recall offhand right now, right, of what those Rosh Hashanahs are, right? So those things, these laws are not really so practical to us because it's agricultural laws, right, which is not so practical. So therefore, over time, it wasn't so talked about, and therefore it sort of didn't become so on our word. And in the 16th century, 1500s. When the Arizal brought Tu B'Shvat into more of a teaching us the Kabbalistic aspect of it, right? And then it sort of became much more ingrained in our Jewish culture and in our customs, and that's why it's something that we know about. That's an excellent question. Okay, so let's get back to our discussion. So we're gonna get back to Stav's first question in a minute. I answered him right in a technical answer, but there's a deeper answer to why we follow the house of Hillel, not so much in general, but for this case in particular. But before we get there, right, I want to sort of tie things in together and really take a step deeper, right, into what's going on over here. So we talked about the month of Shvat, right? We talked about the month of Shvat. Now we're going to go into the concept of Tu B'Shvat itself. All right, so if you turn the page to side 2, all right, there is no greater time. We have 4 seasons, right? There's no greater time when you could see the difference between seasons than winter to spring. All right, from spring to summer, all right, it's basically the same. Right? Okay, it gets a little hotter, but you can't really see the difference. Even from summer to fall, okay, it depends where you are. Some places, like I grew up in Toronto, right? We had snow sometimes in fall, right? But a lot of times you can't really, it's a sort of gradually goes in, right? From winter to spring, right? Seeing the snow melt, right? Seeing the trees start to blossom. There's no really, it's one of the greatest times you could actually see the difference in between the two, right? In spring, right, in winter, everything appears to be, dull and dark. And spring, right, is fresh, right, flowers flourishing. The day gets longer. Right? That's why it's called spring cleaning, right? Because everybody's all ready to rejuvenate, to start. Right? There's a concept, spring cleaning. Even on a deeper level, we're not really talking about spring, but it's not written in here, but Passover, Pesach, right, it's called Chag Aviv. Right, the holiday of spring, right? Because Pesach has to be, and that's why sometimes we add an extra month of Adar, right? That Pesach always has to be in the month of spring because it's the energy of rejuvenation, right? The energy of starting up again. That's the holiday of Pesach. We'll get to that another lunch tonight, right? But that's what spring is, and so you can see the difference. But winter, right? Winter is dark. Winter is cold, right? People stay in their house. Especially, right, in winter. Now with COVID, like people stay in their house all the time, right? But some of us come out, which is great, right? But the truth is, right, the fact that the dead of winter seems like there's nothing going on. So we're going to now answer the first question that we asked. Right? The first question that we asked is, why is Tu B'Shvat, the birthday of the trees, right, dead of winter? Dead of winter. Where the trees are desolate, right? It's dark, right? Things seem to be like nothing's going on. Why is that when we celebrate Tu B'Shvat? It should be the beginning of spring. That was the first question that we asked. I want to tie everything together. And the answer is that even though it's the dead of winter, if you look at the first paragraph, right? It's the truth is that the fact that the dead of winter that gives the earth the ability to regrow with such splendor in the spring. While there is no external sign of development, it is the cold, the dark, and the dreary that gives the roots a chance to rejuvenate itself, right? And prepare itself for the growth that is coming in the spring. In fact, without the winter, it is indeed more difficult for the spring to bring forth all that it has to offer. So it's the winter, the darkness, the cold that allows the roots to actually rejuvenate itself, right? And if you look, botanists say this all the time, not that we need to prove the Torah that way, right? But if you look at it, you'll see, right? And this is the depth behind a commentary called Rashi, which a lot of you are familiar with, and not to mistake in the bottle of wine called Rashi, right? But there's a commentary called Rashi, lived in the 1000s, right? And he says on the Talmud, says, why is now the Rosh Hashanah of Ilavot? Why is it now the birthday of the trees? Because that's when the sap starts to flow in the trees. The sap starts to flow underneath. That's when it starts to rejuvenate itself, right? Even though you don't see it outside, but that's when it starts. And the lesson that we're supposed to learn is like this. Look at paragraph number 2. And so it is true with our lives. Many times we get caught up in the winter, the hardships, and how much hardship do we have these past couple months, almost to a year, right? With COVID and other things. But in general, we all have hardships in our lives, right? Where everything seems cold, dark, and impossible to handle. We think that we'll never get past it, that we will be stuck in this state forever. We cannot possibly imagine why God has put us in this situation. And how can we ever grow from it? We view our hardship as something we must deal with and overcome and leave behind as quickly as possible. But the truth be told, paragraph 3, God is teaching us that the opposite is true. We're all like a tree. Remember we said Adam Eitz HaSadeh. We're compared to a tree. What is the lesson that we're supposed to learn that we're like a tree? That in fact, the hardship that God gives us is the ability to grow. When we are stuck in our winter, we must realize that it's in fact these hardships that gives us the greatest opportunity of growth. Nisayon is the Hebrew word for a test. The test that God gives us in our lives. Nisayon, the Hebrew word of hardship, comes from the root word of nes, miracles. For it's within the greatest hardship that we experience the greatest miracles, which is our own power, strength, and ability to keep going and to keep growing. It is easy to grow in the spring when things are good, but how are we when things are hard? We only realize our greatness when the going gets tough. We have to channel our inner strength in ways that we never had to before. And so the dead of winter, we celebrate the birthday of the trees. We celebrate the fact that just like a tree, which begins to rejuvenate itself, right? In this dead of winter, in its hardship, that's when it begins to rejuvenate itself. Even though externally you don't see anything, but internally you see it, you have to believe it. So too, the lessons that we're supposed to learn from it, Adam Eitz HaSadeh, man is like a tree of the field, that we're supposed to realize never to give up. Don't feel helpless or depressed. Right? We could always turn things in a snap of a finger because it's within inside of us. Just like the sap. It's inside of us, even though externally it doesn't look. It's inside of us that we could grow and become unbelievable. And I want to now connect when we spoke about the month of Shvat. Because sometimes people feel that they have to be the fire, they have to be the water, they have to be the earth, they have to be the person, the thing that is the greatest thing, or they have to be able to be the best right now. They have to know all the commandments, right? They have to be the CEO, right? They have to be the strongest in the world, whatever it is that that person aspires to. Hopefully it's within Judaism too, is one of the things you aspire to. But someone thinks that they have to be at their top. The month of Shvat teaches us, as we said, it is the month that is the middle person. It is the month of the wind. It is the month of the bucket. It is the month of the staff that could be a leader, but it also could be a helper. And we have to realize and look at ourselves and say that the way to grow, the way to change is not thinking that you have to be that. But the way to grow and the way to change is by realizing where you are right now and just thinking that you could be something else. But right now is my opportunity to do that and to work on it. Like a bucket taking me somewhere else. Like the wind, to allow myself to grow. But if we think that we have to be that already, then we won't go anywhere. And therefore, God orchestrated with his ultimate wisdom that the month of Shvat is the month that the tree starts to rejuvenate. Because that is the essence of this month, and that is the essence of the lesson of a man is like a tree that we're supposed to learn from, is to realize that we don't always have to be there. We just have to realize where we are now and be the vessels that could get there. We just have to think about that. We have to realize that. And as we said, realize that the hardest points of our lives are the greatest opportunities for growth. Like a tree in the dead of winter and stop. That's why on a deeper level, the 15th of Shvat is smack in the middle of it's considered the dead of winter, not Rosh Chodesh, not the beginning, but the dead of winter, right? The dead of winter, the middle of Shvat, right? That is considered the darkest time. The darkest time. That's when you have the greatest opportunity. That's when the tree starts to grow. I just want to point out a couple more things. We have a couple more minutes that will tie into all this, but another idea. It says, right? King Solomon said in his writings in Proverbs, it is a tree of life for those who grasp it, for those who support it and praise it. What is, again, we see a tree. What is it referring to? What is a tree of life? So I go to Eitz Chaim synagogue, right? Tree of life. Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. That's why it's called Eitz Chaim. And there's many synagogues throughout the country, Eitz Chaim. Right? I've got emails from people from different cities asking me a question. I said, I think you got the wrong email address, right? They put in the Eitz Chaim at the end, but they put in the wrong thing in the beginning. There's a lot of Eitz Chaims around. Right? What is Eitz Chaim, the tree of life? It's referring to the Torah. Right? It's referring to the Torah that God gave us on Mount Sinai. That is Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. But again, we see a comparison to the tree of life. We have a couple minutes. I just want to point out one thing in this verse, and then we'll continue. A side point, which I love doing. Right? A side point, if you read the whole verse, it says, it is a tree of life for those who grasp it. It means to say the ones that learn it and grasp it, internalize it, become part of it. And each one on their own level. There's no right or wrong. You just have to keep on growing, like we spoke about. And then it says, and those who support and praise it. Those that support it and praise it. Someone is not able to learn so much. And again, one should never doubt themselves, what we spoke about. But one's struggling with it. When you support it and you praise it, support it means to say that you make sure that this Torah, like sponsoring a lunch and learn, sponsoring different learning opportunities, organizations that support a Torah study, or praise it, right? You're out there, you're advocating for it. Oh, come to another lunch and learn. Come to another program the Kollel is doing, right? Come to another Chabad program, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. Another thing the JCA is doing, right? Another learning opportunities. If you're praising it, you're saying, come on board, learn some more of God's Torah. Right? Eitz Chaim it is a tree of life. It will sustain you more than you sustain it. So by learning it, by supporting it, and by praising it, right? And the best is to try to do all three together. That's a side point. So I just want to finish off with two more things, right? Eitz Chaim it's a tree of life. We see another connection. There's another beautiful metaphor from the tree of life, from a tree that was supposed to learn to us. This is from Freilich. It says like this: a tree is constant in the ground, right? But it bears fruits. So what does a tree do? A tree takes the dirt, right? You're not going to eat dirt. The last I checked, maybe little kids sometimes eat dirt, and you take it out of their mouth, right? Well, you don't eat dirt. Right? But what does a tree do? A tree in its trunk, right, and with God's ultimate wisdom, takes the soil, takes the nutrients out of there, and produces beautiful things. Produces fruits, yummy, delicious. Right? I had an apple last night. It was delicious instead of ice cream. Right? My wife was very proud. Right? Don't tell her I said that. But what does it do? So it takes dirt, it takes seemingly nothing and transforms it into something beautiful and great and nourishment and tasty. The commentaries say the Torah, though God gave us, allows us to do the same thing. Allows us to take the physical world, which has no spirituality to it, in essence. Take a fruit like we just spoke about. Take a day of the week and transform it into something beautiful and spiritual. Shabbat. Make a blessing on the fruit, and you're changing this into something spiritual and allows you to grow into something beautiful and spiritual. You take some hide and you make leather straps out of it, and you got tefillin. Whatever it is. You take paper and you put words of Torah on it, and now it's a sefer and it's considered something holy. God gave us the ability, it's us, but through the Torah. And therefore, the Torah is compared to a tree. We're compared to a tree. It's just like a tree goes ahead and takes the dirt and makes something beautiful out of it. So too, we have the ability with the Torah. That's the gift that God gave us, the Torah, to go ahead and transform the physical world into something spiritual. And that's why God gave us so many mitzvot. We take a horn and we blow it on Rosh Hashanah. We take food and we make blessings. We refrain from eating certain foods because that's what God told us, and that makes us more spiritual. Whatever it is, the idea, and again, the taste of the mitzvot is to make us more spiritual, to make things more beautiful, spiritual. And just to end with one last thing, last line. Kemosha ilano seh, peros tavos, kacham asim heim perosehem. Just like a tree makes beautiful fruits, so too our actions are our fruits. We have fruits. We're like a tree. We produce things. We have beautiful fruits, good actions. Our actions are our fruits. Are our actions going to make the world more spiritual? Is our actions going to make unity amongst people? Is our actions going to make us into better people? Those are beautiful fruits. Or sometimes, as I remember reading the Berenstain Beer book, right? Everybody familiar with Berenstain Beers, right? And I remember one of the no, everybody familiar? Okay, yeah, okay, good. Right? The Berenstain Beer books, right? And I remember one of those Berenstain Beer books is the father was the kid had two apples, and one looked beautiful on the outside, and one looked okay, but it wasn't like shining and great and beautiful. And it was the father, probably the mother, because Berenstain Beers always makes the father look like the fool, and that's why I don't like Berenstain Beers really, right? Right, but that's a side point, right? But probably the mother tells the kid, right, wait 1 second, right? And she cuts it open, and the one that was so beautiful on the outside was full of worms on the inside, and the one that didn't look so nice on the outside was beautiful and juicy. So we have to make sure that our fruits are beautiful outside and inside. And that's through connecting to the Torah. Again, the tree represents us and represents the Torah. So the more we connect to our spirituality, the more we connect to the Torah, the more our fruits, our external fruits will be beautiful actions of spirituality, actions of unity, actions of growing and transforming the physical world into something spiritual. And we could do all that with the energy of the month of Shvat. We have to remind ourselves that we don't have to be there. We just have to be that vessel. Right now, we just have to look ourselves as a vessel to get ourselves there. When we look at it that way, it'll be easier to work on it and to change ourselves and realize that the greatest miracle one could do is to overcome their challenges in the hardest times, because the greatest reward comes when the tough is tough, the reward is greater. The harder it is, when you overcome it, the greater the reward. Thank you all for joining us today. A big thank you again to Paul Reed for sponsoring our Lunch and Learn today, and may the memory of your grandmother be for a blessing. Thank you, JCA, for allowing us to be here. There's a flyer that went around, and please take it. There's many more of a wonderful program that we'll be hosting starting February 7th, 2 weeks in February, 2 weeks in March, and it's a history course by Ken Spiro in Israel. That's why it's Sunday morning. He lives in Israel. He's phenomenal. He's great. It's interactive, and that's sponsored through our Winter Wisdom program, Chacham B'Choref, which is sponsored by Ken and Allison Jacobs. So thank you for that. And so please join us, sign up, tell your friends, be that advocate, and the more the merrier. So again, thank you so much, everybody, and everybody have a wonderful day.